Welcome to JK Tells a Story, where real-life dramas unfold. Sit back and enjoy today's tale. I was finally going to be happy again. About damn time. My husband Michael came home early from work today, early. Like for the first time ever. The guy whose job always came before me. I was just finishing getting ready for my date tonight. Yes, an actual date with a real sensitive man, not just a night out with my girlfriends like Michael thought. He walked into the house with an attitude, grabbed me by the arms and demanded, "Who exactly are you seeing tonight and where?" But I was tired of his controlling behavior. I looked him right in the eye and told him off. "I'm seeing Derek Williams tonight for dinner and drinks. Jesus, I need some real companionship for a change." That got him. He let me go and said, "My wife has lost her mind." That comment set me off completely. I was as mad as I could ever remember and started yelling right back at him. Then he said something like Rob was right all along. That jerk, that little nothing. I called 911 and I also called Derek to come protect me. Finally a patrol car showed up, but so did two of his friends. Where the hell was Derek? That's who I wanted right now. Then my mom and sister Janet also arrived, and Michael finally left. I cried in their arms as they comforted me. Maybe my nightmare marriage was finally ending and I had a chance for some happiness. But I still felt some deep sadness watching Michael walk out that door. Just residual feelings from the unhappiness I'd been feeling the last 6 months. A million thoughts were flowing through my mind. What the hell was going on? I thought to myself. Marcus, my second-in-command in any tactical situation, quietly asked me to join him for coffee in our break room. He looked troubled. "What the hell is going on with Derek?" he said. Derek Williams was my oldest friend on the unit and basically my third in command, but he was working hard for a promotion to sergeant in the Dallas County Tactical Operations Unit. Basically, he wanted my job as Sergeant Michael Hayes, and I hoped he'd get it after I moved up myself. "Derek? What do you mean?" "He's talking a bunch of stuff about you and Kate." "You're Kate," Marcus said. "He's more than hinting he has a very personal relationship with her, and that he's going to confront you because you've been mistreating her throughout your marriage." My mouth literally dropped open. I was speechless. Marcus continued, "About half the guys in the unit believe him. Me and a couple others who spent the most time with you and your family don't. It's just not possible. But I'm afraid this kind of personal drama could end up dangerous. We all have guns, and one cop getting involved with another's wife could cause some real problems in any action we might get involved in. This has to be addressed," I said. "Should I talk to Derek or Kate first?" Was Derek making a play for Kate and she totally rebuffed him? So he's acting out this kind of male ego thing? I wondered aloud. I'd known Derek a long time since our army days. He could be difficult sometimes, especially around women, but otherwise he was stable enough. I never had any doubts about him having my back when things got tough. I'd spent a lot of time with him after his own wife left him because of job stress, his work absences, and because he had a problem resisting temptations that men in uniform sometimes face. Linda had found out about his infidelity at least twice and had packed up their 2 kids and headed back to Houston. Still Kate and Derek? I couldn't see that. Our marriage had always been somewhat rocky, but I couldn't understand why she basically chose me in the first place. We all went to Richardson High School, but she was 2 years younger than me. Her brother Rob and I were best friends, even though we lived in different neighborhoods and social levels. My family was strictly working middle class, paycheck to paycheck. The Morrisons were pretty well off, not rich, but they had money and they knew it, especially his parents and Kate. But Rob wasn't like that. We both played 3 major sports in high school: baseball, basketball, and football. We lettered in all 3, and by our junior year both of us started on the baseball and football teams. He was a receiver and I was a fullback. He was flashier and I was a blue-collar worker, but we were still very close on and off the field. He was smarter than me and with his family's money was definitely going to college. I was going into the army to get the college benefits that would follow. I spent a lot of time at Rob's house in Richardson, and it was always pretty obvious that Kate didn't really like me at all. She looked down on my situation in life. In high school it was the same. She ran with a different, wealthier crowd even as a sophomore, the crowd Rob should have been part of but didn't bother with. After high school, Rob headed to SMU and I headed to Fort Leonard Wood in Missouri for MP training, then was stationed at Fort Hood. I eventually became an MP with additional intelligence training and did 2 tours in Iraq. It was interesting work, not a lot of fun, but I survived. 4 years later, I was back in Dallas on a waiting list to join the city or county police departments and attending Dallas Community College for criminology credentials. Rob and I had stayed in touch through letters and emails, and he was coming home for the summer before starting law school. We finally caught up one night at our old favorite bar in Richardson, and Kate came along with him. She had turned into quite a stunning young woman, and the most surprising thing was just how friendly she was to me. It was actually a very pleasant evening. Rob had some funny college stories, but Kate didn't say much about herself. She seemed fascinated whenever I talked about my experiences in Iraq. When we finally left the bar, she actually kissed me on the cheek and said, "So great to see you again. Please stay in touch." Who was this girl and what happened to Kate Morrison? I asked myself the next day. Rob called me and said, "Listen, Kate really likes you. She had a crush on you all through high school and you never paid any attention to her. Bet that surprises you. You could have fooled me," was all I could say. Yeah, sometimes girls are strange that way, but she did and she still does. She's had a rough couple of years though. She basically couldn't handle college, too many parties with too many wealthy kids, too much drinking and too many guys. She had to leave school, just got out of rehab, and she's doing her recovery now. If you call her, just be gentle. Okay? I hate to say this about my own sister, but you probably shouldn't get serious about her. But last night was fun and we should do it again soon. And we did. It became pretty much a weekly thing all summer. Sometimes Kate came with him and sometimes she didn't. I found myself missing her when she didn't show up and finally gave her a call. We ended up with just a lunch date. Eventually she started opening up more. She couldn't apologize enough for being such a snob to me in high school. "You should be," I said, rather than the truth. I hadn't really noticed or been bothered by it back then. But she was beautiful now and had a much better personality. Eventually it developed into a dating relationship and we became exclusive. Time with Kate was incredible. She might have struggled academically in college, but she had learned other things. Most of it was probably natural talent, but not all of her skills could be. I wasn't inexperienced myself, not since my junior year in high school. Being a starter on the football team, especially a championship squad, had something to do with that. I'd had encounters in the army too, some of those women quite talented themselves. But Kate was in a whole other league. Maybe out of my league, but she always seemed satisfied enough with me. So despite her parents' reluctance, Kate married me as soon as I was accepted onto the Dallas County Police Force. I don't actually remember ever asking her. Her more dominant personality traits were reemerging. Whatever Kate wants, Kate gets. She got pregnant almost immediately, and Emma, our first daughter, was born just about 1 year after our wedding. 2 years later, Tyler was born, our first son. 3 years after that, our second daughter Madison arrived, and finally 4 years later, little Sophia. All our kids are beautiful and healthy. Thank God. After each birth, Kate had some postpartum depression for a month or 6 weeks. Otherwise, she was a great mother and loved our kids wholeheartedly. She never worked outside the home, but working inside the home with young kids is hard work, and I never doubted it. After Madison was born, Kate started birth control again, just as she had in high school and college. Her personality seemed to change just a bit, not quite as stable day in and day out. By then I was away from home more than I ever wanted to be, but I was in the tactical ops unit now. Training, night shifts, and call-outs took a lot of time from home life. I don't know if she stopped taking the pills on purpose or if they just failed, but she became pregnant with little Sophia. After Sophia was born almost 5 years ago, she had her tubes tied and nursed Sophia for about 18 months. Then she really started changing. Our intimate life had never been boring, but it was always kind of feast or famine with my work schedules, the pregnancies, breastfeeding, and her being exhausted from little kids. We both always enjoyed being together when the stars finally aligned properly for us, but sometimes we'd go a whole week without connecting or longer. We both could live with that, I thought. One real poison she had to deal with was her parents, Eleanor and Stanford, and even her sister Janet's opposition to me. They all disliked me. I wasn't good enough for their little princess and couldn't really afford to keep her in the style they had accustomed her to. They wanted that to continue. Ironically, they loved the grandchildren I'd provided them, but I guess any donor could have done that, and a wealthy one would have been so much better, like Janet's older and richer lawyer husband, Todd. I was sure they all gave her money, maybe monthly. She never said anything and I didn't either, but I didn't like it much. It was interfering in my marriage and my family. After Sophia quit nursing, Kate started taking a lot more me time. She had never gotten anywhere near overweight, but she had put on a few pounds through all those years of having and raising our beautiful kids. Now she was almost obsessed with getting her college figure back. She also started dressing more nicely day in and day out, taking more care with her makeup, even changing her perfume. She nagged more than ever about how little money I brought home versus all the time I wasn't there helping her. Our intimate life pretty much ended about 6 months ago, maybe just once or twice in that whole time. One of her breaks was me watching the kids when I was home at night while she finally got to go out with her girlfriends for dinner without kids and husbands. I could understand most of this, just not the complete lack of intimacy, especially as she was now back to being beautifully trim with her new old college body. And now the situation with Derek. I checked out for the day, told my captain I had something personal to handle but had my phone and would respond if anything came up. Then I went home to talk to my wife. It was close to our normal shift change time, though I seldom could get home at that time. So I was about an hour early today. Kate was all dressed up. "Oh good, you're home early," she said. "No honey or sweetheart or even Michael. Listen, I'm going out tonight and you've got the kids." "Maybe you are and maybe you aren't," I said in my professional voice, not one she had ever heard before from me. "What?" she spluttered. "We need to talk first and you need to tell me what the hell is going on. Now." She got a little defensive with the classic shifty eyes. "Nothing's going on. I just need a break tonight. Look me in the eyes and tell me exactly who you're going to be with tonight and where." That's when she got red in the face and it blew up. "All right, I'm meeting Derek tonight and he's buying dinner like on a date, a real date. And I just might thank him the way I thanked so many nice guys in college who treated me well, not like you. You're nothing." My wife has gone insane. I thought, just saying it to myself. "Don't you say that. Don't you dare say that to me. I have given you the best years of my life. I've given you everything, and what did you give me? Nothing. Because you are nothing. Derek is exactly right about you. I'm taking the kids over to my mom's and I want you out of my house when I get back. You better be gone because I'm bringing Derek here tonight. I'm finally going to get some real companionship for a change. I wasn't going to let the kids get in the car with her right now, that was for sure." I almost whispered, just talking to myself. Rob was right all along. That's when she turned purple, called 911, and claimed I was hurting her. Then she called Derek to come save her. My captain and Marcus showed up right after the patrol car did. Derek at least was smart enough not to show up. My wife was sobbing, making all kinds of accusations, but there were obviously no signs of any injury to her. The captain was sympathetic and just said, "Is there anyone who can look after the kids tonight?" As much as I hated it, I said, "Yeah, her folks. Let's get them over here. You should probably just leave for tonight. We can't leave you two together, Michael. I'm sorry for all this." "Yeah, me too," was all I could say. As soon as her mother Eleanor and Janet showed up, I tried to talk to my kids, but they all looked shell-shocked, kind of scared of me. They were thinking I must have done something to their mom. Even I thought I must have, but I didn't have a clue what. Marcus offered me his couch, but I opted for a motel room. I just wanted to be alone. I missed my family terribly. The next day at work, I looked hard at Derek a few times, but somehow never caught his eye. Around 4 p.m., I was served with a protective order. I wasn't allowed within 500 feet of my home, my wife, or my kids. I grabbed Derek and hauled him off to a private office. Half my team started going for their guns just reflexively, seeing how I looked and acted, but I waved them off. "What the hell have you done?" I demanded. He finally looked me in the eye and said, "All I did was be your friend. How the hell could you have treated her like that all those years? Are you insane too? I never touched Kate like that, not once, not even in play. Why would she lie to me? I don't know, but she asked for help. And if you believe her over me, you're one sad, stupid man. God help us all. Get out of here." I sat there considering how to get a lawyer. This was not going to be good. Basically, just by lying so convincingly, backed by her mom and dad's testimony as to their own suspicions and how they trusted their daughter completely, and with little 13-year-old Emma being so scared and confused by all of this, the protective order was continued pending further review. Kate tried to smile in triumph, but she actually just looked a little confused herself. Even my own folks sided with her, looking at me like I was roadkill. I think I overheard someone whisper, "It must be PTSD. Poor woman." About a week later, I was served again divorce papers. Word got back to me that Derek was now openly bragging about how great things were with Kate. He might even marry her once she divorced me legally. Meanwhile, let's see what Kate was thinking. I went into the bathroom after Michael left and Eleanor and Janet got the kids sorted out. I called Derek and talked to him for a long time. Derek was just really sweet. I had known him for a long time, just casually as one of Michael's friends from his army days, and now he was under Michael in the SWAT squad. But we only really got to know each other much better about 4 weeks ago. About 6 months ago, the veil started dropping from my eyes, and it was like I saw Michael for the first time in our whole married life as he really was. He repulsed me now in so many ways, and he no longer even pretended to want to touch me. He must be seeing someone else. I became a little obsessed about that. Was it an affair with one woman or many, like Derek once did? I knew about Derek and his divorce from Linda, of course. They were both our friends once. Eleanor and Janet fanned these flames and suggested I get myself back in my best shape, put myself out there a little more, because you deserve so much more in a man than Michael, someone like Dad or Todd. A man who can really take care of you in all ways. A new car, a nice big house, maids, and someone who puts you first, not second to some job. And I did that, got back in shape. Michael never even seemed to notice, and I just kept getting more unhappy. I started thinking back to all those great times I had in college before Michael re-entered my life. I was happy then, I was excited then, and would give almost anything to feel like that once more. I started going out for dinner with Janet and some of her wealthier girlfriends about once a week. Just us girls, a break from the kids and husbands. Well, those of us still married. Generally 1 or 2 divorcees were included, and they always wanted to eat someplace that also had some dancing and singles action. Even Janet liked that idea. About 4 weeks ago, Derek was at the club we were all at. Janet and her friend Vicky were already dancing with some guys who had asked them. I had been asked but was playing coy. Derek came up to our table and after a little small talk asked me to dance. And I decided to accept. He was a handsome man, even out of uniform, in good shape and very strong like Michael, but sweeter somehow. Also more dangerous, since I knew he had cheated on Linda. It was a really nice feeling being in his arms while we slow danced. I liked that, and thought maybe I could trust him or at least handle him well enough for what I wanted. "I'm having some issues with Michael," I started out. "Sorry to hear that," he replied naturally. "We haven't been happy together for a long time, and he never touches me anymore. I used to be pretty popular back in college. You probably think this is terrible of me, now a wife and mother, but I was wondering if I could trust you absolutely." "Absolutely," he replied rather passionately. He wanted me. Good. Maybe he would get there, maybe not. We'd see. I just feel like taking a little ecstasy again. Know where I might safely and discreetly find some. He smiled kind of triumphantly. I blushed and started acting all insulted, but he laughed and casually handed me the pill, acting like he was just tenderly touching my open hand for a moment. I casually swallowed it down and took another big gulp of my margarita, fourth one of the night. I finally experienced a little feeling of joy again in my now dreary life. Derek and I danced some more, and I let myself relax against him. Derek wanted some private time with me now, and I decided I did too, but only to a point. Janet had driven but was now busy dancing with the same guy for quite a while. I just told her Derek was going to drive me home, and she smiled and gave me a thumbs up. I could read her mind. Derek wasn't marriage material, but good enough as a companion and to really get over Michael. He kissed me and I kissed him back while he parked right in my driveway, actually hoping Michael might notice. After a few minutes of this, I went inside. It was about midnight and everyone was pretty much sound asleep, of course, even Michael. I was still feeling pretty good. Well, forget Michael the husband and provider, but he did have certain qualities, and I wanted them right now, probably for the last time. I woke him up, and when he started responding, I was thinking about Derek and when I would let him have his turn with me. It was definitely happening with Derek now, and it was going to happen soon. About a week later, I was out with the girls again while clueless Michael watched our kids. I didn't even like my own kids anymore, and that as much as anything made me feel like crying day in and day out. I blamed it on Michael as well. It was all his fault, all my misery. I had traded texts with Derek after our encounter last week, and he knew where we were going to be tonight. Janet was driving again, and two other different girls were joining us. They wouldn't notice Derek as anything but just another guy trying to approach us, and Janet heartily approved of a little action on the side for me. By now, I had figured out that's exactly what she was doing herself. After our dinner, Derek appeared and soon we were dancing again. It was so funny and typical. I knew he was thinking about last time and now wanting more. I started telling him more about how terrible life with Michael was and had always been, how he just made me and our kids so unhappy. I even hinted at physical mistreatment at times. He absorbed it all, got angrier at Michael than at me. It was almost funny, but now it was time for a little joy. "You got it?" I asked. "Yeah, but I'm not giving you any unless we go somewhere private first." Oh, a little pressure. I could play this game. "Oh, Derek, don't be like that, please. I'm still married, even though it doesn't feel like it anymore. Kate, baby, I want to make you happy in every way. I don't just want to be with you. I want to love you, to make love to you properly. Where would we go? Let's just go to my place. My apartment's not far. Maybe, but I can't stay all night, not even real late. 1 a.m. at the latest until I walk through my own front door. Do you understand? Yes, I'll do what you want. Okay, let's take it now. I can't do these pills myself, too risky for my career, but I will tonight so we can really share this experience." And we did, and I had him. I was thinking to myself as I went to the restroom before we left the club. I took off my underwear. Then I found Janet on the dance floor and told her I was leaving with Derek again. She noticed I wasn't wearing anything underneath and just smirked. "Have fun," she said. As soon as we got to the apartment, our clothes came off and Derek carried me to his bedroom. That feeling of almost unlimited energy and joy fueled our abandon to pure passion and drove us for the next 3 hours. I didn't make it home until 2 a.m. and still couldn't sleep. But as always, Michael was sleeping like the dead. I didn't need him anymore either. I was satisfied physically but still felt strangely unfulfilled. The next morning I felt even more depressed, and only the thought of the next time with Derek made any of it bearable that I could barely talk. I was sore from all the yelling I'd done the night before. Back to Michael. I caught Derek in the restroom and confronted him. He tried to defend himself, but I had all the rage on my side. I tried hard not to break anything important job-wise, but I think I probably got his nose. Afterward I told him, "You can do what you want with that crazy woman now, but I better never hear the slightest rumor it's being discussed in our locker room again." If it ever gets back to me and you hurt my kids by word or deed, I will put a bullet right between your eyes. Remember Henderson." At that he turned white. Message delivered. I had dealt with Henderson before, so Derek knew I meant it. So Kate divorced me and Derek moved in with her. After a fairly lengthy Texas Department of Family and Protective Services investigation, I could finally see my kids again, but only with supervised visits at first. Emma especially seemed to hate me now. She wouldn't hug me and only answered in acid-filled tones of disgust like her mom. The smaller kids were a little happier but almost acted scared of me. It didn't take a genius to figure out that Mom, Grandma Eleanor, and Janet were bad-mouthing me constantly. Maybe even my own mom was on Kate's side. My life was pretty much in purgatory, caught in that gray nothingness between happiness and utter despair. I sure as hell couldn't lose focus at work. I had to meet my child support payments, plus I might get killed or get some of my team killed if my mind wandered. I didn't have enough money to even consider dating someone else, nor the energy or interest. Let's see, only a few more years until little Sophia turned 18. I was sure by then none of my kids would talk to me, so I might as well look forward to the end of that financial burden. Thinking like this were the only times I cried a little, drank too much, and occasionally found myself staring at a 9mm bullet and my Glock. About a year into this life, I got shot. I was lead, as always, bursting into a commercial office with an unknown number of perpetrators and a multiple hostage situation. After all negotiations had failed and every attempt at gathering accurate intel, the exact number and location of the perps was still uncertain. The tear gas and flashbangs went off, the door was breached, and I went in with my shotgun at the tactical ready position. Marcus and Derek were right behind me, or so I thought, but they somehow got hung up a bit. Then a perp appeared behind me and looked to have a gun pointed right at the back of my head. Marcus nailed him center target with a shotgun buckshot load right in the upper back. The autopsy later showed one pellet severed his spinal cord just below the neck level, instantly paralyzing and killing him, so his trigger finger didn't even twitch. But Derek's shot was way off target. Half of it hit the perp at hip level and the rest hit me in my right upper leg, below my vest. It broke my pelvic bone and thigh bone, but all the pellets missed anything too vital. A bone fragment did nick my femoral artery though, and I almost bled out right there. Only the fact that fire and rescue paramedics were on site and ready saved my life. I was unconscious for about 48 hours as 2 surgeries were performed on me. When I finally halfway regained consciousness, I had a strange dream. Kate was in the room with me, kinda crying to herself, "Oh Michael, oh Michael, oh Michael. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. I just didn't know what was wrong with me." I faded back out, dimly remembering hearing stuff like that over and over again. Just a strange post-anesthesia dream, I thought. When I finally did wake all the way back up a few days later, Kate, Emma, and Tyler came to visit me in the hospital. Tyler was really excited because I had been shot and was now a celebrity hero on all the news. Thank God none of the hostages were harmed, but 2 perps were down forever and the 3rd was also wounded, even in the same hospital. Emma seemed somewhat pleasant and even happy to see me. I had no clue what to say to these people who were once my family. I tried to make a joke and said something like, "Well, Derek had his chance and missed," but Kate turned red and then white and ran out of the room. It almost looked like she had tears in her eyes. Emma just said, "Mom's not too happy right now. Derek's not living with us anymore and isn't allowed to come around us. Mom hasn't been happy for a long time, since you went away and left us." I was too tired to argue with confused people or even try to set the factual record straight. I basically just told them I needed to rest now. Kate kept bringing my kids back to see me every day, but we didn't talk. What was the point? We were way beyond normal relationship problems. It was more like I was from a regular matter universe and Kate was from a bizarre antimatter universe. What could we possibly have in common to talk about? At least the kids were talking to me and not acting scared of me or just hating me. Kate finally asked, "Where are you going when they discharge you? You will need somebody to help you. Emma and I would like to do that." I've already arranged to go into a live-in VA rehab center, so it's not necessary. Now what was wrong with Kate? Was she planning on harming me if she got me in her power? I tried to remain civil, but my skin was crawling a little. It was just a bit too weird after the past 16 months, not to mention the previous 13 years. Look, once I get all situated, I'll call Eleanor and give her the info on visiting hours, and maybe she can bring the kids for a visit one day on the weekend. Okay? I was trying to let her off the hook. I wanted to see my kids, but not her. I just figured the stress of being around me was making her all weird, and I sure didn't need her pity just because I was wounded. I was alive and I'd be okay again, but I was definitely leaving Dallas after I recovered. Kate didn't look relieved as they all left, just depressed. Welcome to my daily world. At least Kate had had companionship since I walked out on them. I had my left hand for company once a week if it was a good week. Although every once in a while I would go out for a drink after work, still in uniform, and let some woman approach me. One-night stands, not dating. It really was amazing how the uniform was such a turn-on for some women. Maybe that's all Kate ever really saw, just the uniform, not me. And then not Derek, not really. She could find another man in uniform or not anytime she wanted, like right now, tonight. So don't show me some fake sympathy. Please. Now back to Michael. Marcus had been by a couple of times to see me, but Derek hadn't. Derek was on administrative leave right now while the whole thing was investigated. The other officers behind Derek testified they thought Derek kind of stumbled and then fired totally accidentally, but there was just no way to make it look good. He was probably going to be kicked off the SWAT team no matter what. Control of one's weapon at all times was the critical skill. Purposefully wounding a fellow SWAT team member for personal reasons wasn't too good either. Best case, he'd be off the team and just get another police officer job. Worst case, firing from the whole force and possibly facing a negligent firearm assault charge. I also found out Kate had literally made Derek unstable. She now had a protective order against him to stay away from her and was evidently frightened of him. My kids might really need me and I was pretty helpless. I think I could figure out what happened. Derek believed every lie Kate told him. She was just a poor, helpless damsel in distress. I was the villain, and he was her knight in shining armor rescuing her. Her intimacy really sealed the deal. When he finally got a taste of it, he was convinced she really loved him as he loved her, and that I somehow was controlling her to reject him now. Even before I could walk on my own again, Derek had already been arrested once for violating the protective order. He was now on notice at work, one more violation and he would be automatically fired for cause. The police union couldn't help him either. Poor Derek was literally addicted to Kate. He couldn't stay away. He was arrested again for trying to break into her house when luckily a patrol car arrived just in time. Now he was sitting in jail while the DA and his lawyer argued over bail. The judge sure didn't want more bad publicity about a bad cop in Dallas, so he set bail at $1 million cash, and Derek stayed in jail. Kate's mom did bring the kids by just about every weekend, sometimes both days. All of a sudden, dear old Mom Eleanor was a lot friendlier to me than the last time we were together. She said to the kids, "Wait outside the room for me just a little bit. I need to talk to your dad privately. First, I want to apologize to you for believing all of Kate's lies," she said. I remained silent. Kate's not well mentally. She has been seeing a psychiatrist and is on some antidepressants now that seem to be helping a lot. She had developed a bipolar condition no one recognized and was in a manic phase when she totally lost it. It may have been triggered or made much worse by her birth control pills. Those hormones affect the brain as well as the body. That might have been what contributed to her problems in high school and then college as well. I am ashamed to admit I put her on the pill back then just to keep her out of trouble. I almost shed a tear. Kate is desperately ashamed of how she acted and desperately wants to see you again. Can you possibly forgive her and me and my whole family for how we treated you? Your kids really need you now as well. It was all very scary for them. She stopped talking because she could see the rage in my face. You know it was your total unwarranted hate for me all these years that put my kids through that hell. Don't you? Why shouldn't I? I stopped myself. Her ego and pride wouldn't let her acknowledge it. She got all stiff and just kind of walked out. Forget them all is all I could think, except my kids. I'd sleep on it. I had a lot of questions. It all seemed a little too convenient. Sorry for divorcing you and sleeping with Derek for a year. I was just mentally ill. But I'm better now. Come on home. She was at least rational enough to convince everyone else in the whole world, apparently, that I was the crazy one, even my own kids. She was rational enough to dress real nice and act all pretty for Derek, but not for her husband. Nothing about that seemed irrational to me. She was also rational enough to totally fool Derek, a trained police officer with all manner of lies. He never spotted any inconsistencies. And if she was nuts, how come Derek was the one locked up and not her? I hobbled back to my crappy two-bedroom apartment. I was cleared to go back to work, but obviously only for desk work. I would still need several more months of both psychological counseling and physical training to get even close to field ready again. The shooting had rattled me more than I wanted to admit, and the department mandated trauma counseling before I could return to active duty. The weirdest thing about going back to work was realizing how deeply unpopular I was with my own team now. Marcus was still my friend and the captain was supportive, but everyone else had decided it was all my fault, Kate leaving me for Derek, then driving Derek crazy, and even Derek shooting me, stalking Kate, and being in jail himself. Derek was somehow the victim of my craziness, but I didn't care. The captain warmly reminded me that I was still on the promotion list and had definitely moved further up that list. Good things are going to happen for you soon, Michael. Just hang in there, bud. But I was getting out of Dallas. Through my contacts with old Army MP comrades and the semi-annual SWAT nationwide meetings and seminars I regularly attended since becoming sergeant, I had been offered the job of leading Austin's smaller SWAT unit as their lieutenant. I had accepted, pending working through my 30-day notice period in Dallas. I also instructed my lawyer to modify visitation from every other weekend to 1 whole month each summer. I hated to do it, but I had to move on from this whole unfathomable mess. I felt like I definitely had a future down there, and I would feel a hell of a lot more comfortable with those Texas hill country folks at my back than my urban colleagues here next time things hit the fan. Right about now, Stanford had a massive heart attack and died. Obviously, I wasn't going to the funeral. Maybe that was small of me, but he never liked or respected me, and I respected his feelings enough to honor them even in his death. Rob came back to town for the funeral and finally called me. He was now a pretty successful litigator, a criminal defense attorney in Chicago. I had thought he would go the DA route, and he still might. The night after the funeral, we met at our old favorite neighborhood spot in Richardson. After small talk, he ordered a couple of shots of Irish whiskey and said, "Come on, Michael, just one shot for the old man." I smiled and drank. I am so sorry about Kate, Michael. I really am. I wish I had heard about what was happening sooner and could have gotten here. Maybe, I said. I don't know, Rob. You tried to warn me a long time ago, and I guess you were right all along. No, actually, I don't think I was. As the years passed, I was happy you ignored me and Kate got herself together so very well. I really love my nieces and nephews, and I'm going to start visiting back home more often now. Eleanor told me what she told you. It's not. What I'm trying to say here is that Kate really is mentally ill, but it is treatable with proper medication. She has a good psychiatrist now monitoring the pills, of course, but also trying to help her back from the intense shame and guilt she feels about you and how she treated you. Plus her own broken heart. You no longer love her, but she loves you now more than ever before. She was on suicide watch for 2 weeks during her last breakdown and stay in a facility about a year ago. You never knew that, did you? My mom, excuse me, who I do love dearly, kept all that from you. No, I hadn't heard this before. What can I say, Rob? I don't love Kate anymore. The only way I can keep my sanity is to not love her anymore. But I won't hate her either. I will try to at least be friendly and respect her as the mother of my children from here on out, if she will try and do the same. I just can't stand any more craziness. She somehow managed to turn just about everyone I know against me. I can't take any chances at all with her anymore. You can tell her this if you want to. I'll talk to her. Everyone is really sorry about all this, Michael. You didn't deserve it. Kate didn't deserve it either. She's almost driving herself crazy just mentally trying to understand how she could do all the things she did, especially the hateful things she said and did to you. That's what the ongoing therapy is for. Organic depression and mania caused all that. She's struggling with it, and I imagine you are as well. Let me just mention one more thing. My dad made a lot of money in his investments and provided well for his family. My inheritance now is roughly $1 million. Kate's is quite a bit more, about $3.2 million. Since Texas doesn't have state income tax, she'll keep most of it. Her whole worrying about money shouldn't be a factor anymore, unless she is irreparably unstable and blows it all quickly like some people do. Watching how she handles that might help you make some proper judgments about her in the future. Just saying. We talked about much more, including his own very successful life as a lawyer and the woman he was currently dating who might be the one or might not. He was a serial dater and probably wasn't quite ready to get off that treadmill yet. We promised to stay in touch better and more often than we had in the recent past. As we exited the club later that night, I couldn't quite get around to telling him about Austin. I had a feeling he'd try to talk me out of it. Right at the end of the night, he said, "Just remember all the years with Kate at her best. That's how she really is. A loving mother and a loving wife. That other Kate really isn't her." "Maybe," I replied, "but I know at least one man who absolutely loves that other Kate, or at least is absolutely obsessed with her, and he'll do anything to get her back. Which is the real Kate? Really? I just can't know. I'm not God, and I can't look into her heart. Does Kate actually know herself? I feel sorry for her, and I feel sorry for me and even for Derek and my kids. Is she going to eventually hurt them too, even more than she already has? Are you going to watch her closely now? I once did, and it made no difference, did it? So much for my friends and family and any support group. She made me feel alone, and I am as alone as I've ever been in my life, and finally, okay with it. Tell her if she really loves me to let it lie. I hope she gets herself together because nobody has died yet. Just me a little bit. But I'm getting threatening letters from, I'm pretty sure who, telling me to leave Kate alone if I know what's good for me. Tell Kate that as well and to be careful. She should think only about herself and her kids and not me or her supposed love for me." I understood he didn't look very happy, but he only nodded and smiled sadly. "Take care, good buddy." And I was on my way, heading south. Now let's look at it from Kate's side. My life had slowly descended into hell over the last 2 years. It just gradually seemed to develop a general feeling of dissatisfaction that came and went at first, but then it came and stayed with me longer and longer, and slowly morphed into perpetual unhappiness and gloom. I tried to ignore it all at the beginning and just concentrate more on my kids and on Michael. I also tried to hide my unhappiness from them, of course. Michael worked very hard and tried to take care of us all financially as best he could, and he had an important job. It was often scary for me, and all his time away from us was an irritant. I knew he felt bad that money was always tight for us and that my not-so-nice parents and sister seemed to take some glee in pointing that out to Michael every time we got together at holiday gatherings, birthday parties, or just a weekend barbecue. In fact, Michael always held his temper and endured those slights quietly, all because of his love for me and our children, willing to share us with them. I loved him for that and so much more. Then my personal gloom deepened. I even lost all desire to be intimate with my incredibly handsome husband, a man I had basically been attracted to since I was 14 years old and first knew him as a desirable boy of 16. I tried even harder to fix myself by dieting and exercising vigorously, talking myself into feeling better, and dressing pretty, hoping that alone would make me feel more attractive. But nothing I tried had any effect at all. I felt helpless and scared somehow. I started rationalizing that it must be Michael's fault. Well, maybe Eleanor and Janet planted those seeds a bit as I turned to them for advice, believing it was his job to keep me happy, and then he wasn't doing it. I started drinking more and even going out with my sister for dinner once a week. Janet kept insisting that Michael wasn't doing his job keeping me happy. She never thought he could anyway. Then that whole crazy Derek thing happened, fueled by my desperate thinking that ecstasy could help me. I couldn't ask straight arrow Michael for that while thinking that was just what I needed, just a little bit. All I could remember was how great it made me feel back in college, not the fact that it almost destroyed me back then. But Derek might be able to get it for me. All cops know how to get things. That's almost a job requirement. The first time I asked him, I felt smart. Well, that all worked for about 2 seconds. He quickly became obsessed with me, my body, and my lies I told quite shamelessly and believably about my love for him and my even greater hate for Michael. I'm sure I could have passed a lie detector test at that time. I almost believed it myself and never felt any remorse or guilt. And of course the false love euphoria the pill produced felt real for both of us, at least until the pill wore off, at least for me, if maybe not Derek. Derek was almost insatiable when it came to intimacy. We would both take some ecstasy and drink a little tequila, then be together waiting for the euphoric love feelings. We had intense physical encounters and then collapsed, passing out to sleep for at least 4 hours straight. But then inevitably we would wake up again. Waking up was the problem. Not being able to sleep without intimacy and pills was an even bigger problem. Each time I woke up I always felt worse, never better, and I also missed Michael more and more, while my feelings of hate for him increased. I blamed him for leaving me somehow. It was his fault that I was involved with Derek and had divorced him. He still should not have left me and our children. How could he have done that? How could I logically think these kinds of thoughts? The black hole I was in kept getting deeper and darker. This all made Michael even more of an enemy in my mind. Though my feelings for my kids were basically neutralized by my pervading gloom, I rationally determined they would never leave me. I would win them with my love and also turn them against their dad with the same kind of intense lies I easily told Derek. Of course, they believed me even more than gullible adult Derek did. Then about 7 months into my relationship with Derek, who was practically living with me, I woke up one morning after yet another intense pill-fueled night of pure physical passion. And that night had ended with an almost out-of-body feeling for me where I totally lost all control and then passed out for what I thought would be a few more hours of blessed sleep. When I next woke up just 2 hours later, I was crying and hyperventilating and just couldn't stop. A full-blown panic attack or nervous breakdown. All Derek could do was call 911, and I spent the next 4 weeks in a recovery facility, the best clinic that my father Stanford could find and pay for. I guess I was just lucky a very good psychiatrist, Dr. Sarah Mitchell, was assigned to assess and evaluate me and really try to find out what was going on. She undoubtedly saved my life. My folks took my kids in and didn't even tell Michael what was going on. He never guessed the kids were now so afraid of their dad that they could hardly talk to him by now, especially Emma. So on his weekends, which normally meant just a Saturday afternoon visit watching a movie or eating some pizza, no one said a word about Mom being on a short vacation by herself. I was put on lithium and Valium initially, which worked fairly well to stop my crying the first week. Then I started taking an NDRI antidepressant while the Valium dosages were carefully decreased. About the second week, my actual sanity started returning, along with all my memories of the past year crystal clear. That's when I became suicidal. I had destroyed my marriage irreparably, and I was sure Michael could not possibly love me anymore after the cruel way I had treated him. I had also abused my children mentally with all the lies and turned them against their father in a most cruel and vicious way. Paradoxically, I was also a better mother to them in other ways, caring for them almost obsessively as mere pawns in the deranged game in my mind against Michael. I still could not understand why my own parents and sister had enabled me to do all this and even helped this destructive campaign against Michael and my marriage. Why did they hate him so much? Why did they discount my own love for him throughout the happy years of my marriage? I now realized they disrespected me almost as much. Many really depressed people become dangerously suicidal as they start to recover, merely as they regain a minimal energy level that allows them to take action and end it all. My own mental condition was far worse at this point. Only after Dr. Mitchell was convinced I had passed that first crisis point and was starting to really feel empathy and love for my children once more, and I fully acknowledged what my suicide would do to them, was I granted a conditional release from the institution. However, I had to stay with my parents at first, not alone with my own children, and I met with Sarah 3 times a week for the first 2 months. Sarah tried to explain to me why I had turned on Michael, the man I loved and the one person who might have really helped me through all this. All couples have conflicts and disagreements in their relationships. Every single one. What makes a marriage strong is not the lack of conflict, but rather the ability to navigate the ebb and flow of constant power struggles to determine who makes decisions when. The fact is, both sometimes make the decisions in different areas, from home and child rearing to social and recreation decisions, financial priorities, and even frequency of intimacy and personal likes and dislikes. The best couples almost intuitively work all this out in mutual, often unspoken agreement, determining which spouse makes the best decisions in various areas. Sometimes the woman, even if she is a stay-at-home mom, makes the best decisions on spending money. Sometimes the husband does. Sometimes one spouse makes all the best intimacy decisions, and the same applies to social friends, recreation, time and money allocations, balancing pleasure versus discomfort for each in that area. For example, one spouse may like to dance while the other does not. Some level of compromise is always best. Those relationships where one partner unilaterally controls the other in all areas very rarely work out best for either partner. That's an old catch-22 type of situation where wives really aren't all that happy with their husband's control over them. How quickly would any normal man become bored and disinterested with a robot as a lover? Or how many women would enjoy a walking companion with no surprises ever? This is what obsessive controlling types can end up with as they dominate their partners. From what you've told me, you and Michael had a pretty good, normal conflict-type marriage with generally good compromise resolutions working in different areas. Read Proverbs 31 and reflect on that in the next few days, the worth of a good wife and how even in such a supposed patriarchal society as Old Testament Judaism, the wife obviously made her own decisions in her own domain, whose opinion was valued by her husband and even other men outside her home. But conflict still existed in those marriages, including your own. Michael was a natural opponent to you in some ways throughout your marriage, and obviously you couldn't ask him to get you ecstasy or any other illegal pill, which you logically thought you needed at that point. As your illness progressed, you lost your basic core emotional and rational assumptions about Michael and your marriage. A normal human mind is never totally and only rational. It can't be. That would actually be counter-survival for each individual and certainly counter-reproductive for the species. In a strictly evolutionary sense, what purely rational woman would ever put herself through pregnancy and childbirth with all that discomfort and the risk of serious injury or death? Let some other woman continue the species. That would be the best purely rational decision. Now that human technology and ingenuity have made unintended pregnancy avoidable, worldwide birth rates are dropping almost like a rock, and demographic winter is approaching many of the most advanced countries and cultures. Rational women are choosing not to reproduce or are having no more than one child each. The human brain and mind are always influenced by largely uncontrollable and chaotic hormones and complex natural chemicals. Testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, adrenaline, endorphins, serotonin, oxytocin, and more are being discovered every day. All of us poor humans have to make innumerable decisions daily based on incomplete information. Like what the man sitting across from me on a date is really thinking. Sure, all of us women know he wants to get into our pants, but is it really love or is it just for physical pleasure? Or maybe it's simply a conquest, a notch on his bedpost, not even mutually enjoyable intimacy. So we all play various flirting games, trying to gather more information to make both a rational and a more accurate intuitive decision. Men do the same thing, plus women are more complicated and actually harder to understand purely rationally, Or so every man I've ever talked to tells me, including my husband and my sons. But you lost touch with all your actual solid intuition, the foundational emotional bedrock assumptions that you love Michael and that Michael loved you. That's what the chemical imbalance in your brain did to you. With that gone, all you had left was the logical portion trying to figure things out. Why were you so dissatisfied and unhappy? Pure logic dictated that it had to be Michael causing it somehow. You became like an egotistical computer with no emotional empathy ability at all. This same logical portion of your brain drove you to self-medication efforts, alcohol, ecstasy, and feel-good intimacy with someone other than Michael. Michael had already been eliminated as any possible help because logically he was the cause, just because he was there when you started feeling all bad and depressed. I looked doubtful about all this, and in fact, it was pretty much the most Sarah ever tried to spell out for me in one session. This was the first of many, with me always doing most of the talking, trying to figure things out for myself. But she ended the session with this. We both know you are a naturally intelligent woman, maybe even smarter than your brother Rob. Unfortunately, a lot of intelligence is sometimes accompanied by a tendency to mental instability chemically in some people. Your own chemical imbalances may have just naturally developed as you age. Body chemistries in all of us gradually change over time, or your own taking of birth control hormones and then recreational pills in high school and college may have set up some damage, further worsened by that progesterone birth control formulation you took after Madison was born. There is a definite link there with other bipolar patients, at least anecdotally in the literature. We also both know you have a strong personality and go after what you feel you really want. And now you want your husband, marriage, and family back just like before. Just seeing and talking with Michael is the next logical step, but please do not try to do that right now. We still have a lot of things to work through, both with mental therapy and also medication therapy, to get you into as stable a brain chemistry position as possible, maybe even at some point off all medication. But this is going to take time. A setback for you personally after any progress with Michael might prove even more disastrous. I have seen that too many times. Okay? I could see her points, but it was very hard to mentally agree with her assessment. I now so wanted to see and talk with Michael again. I just knew he would understand after I explained it all to him. But I wisely decided to wait just a little while longer. What I could do though was try to straighten out my kids about the truth instead of the lies. And even that was harder than I ever thought it would be. Emma in particular wouldn't budge. That all doesn't matter. He still left us. He is bigger and stronger than you, and he shouldn't have left us. If he really loved us, he wouldn't have done that. I tried to explain how I had so easily gotten the protective order and had basically all the police and courts on my side, but she still wasn't buying it. To her, I seemed more crazy now than I did before. I had been so nice to them, rational and strong before. Now I seemed nervous and unsure, less believable in everything I said. How would I have appeared to Michael in this state as well? Finally hit me, and I was unsure every day. I wondered if this was the day my meds stopped working and I would start that long gradual slide back into insanity without actually noticing. The meds also had some inevitable side effects that I had to work through and adjust for. The NDRI I was currently on completely eliminated my physical desires. Well, that was probably a good thing right now, actually, but it wouldn't do if I ever got to the point where Michael wanted even to just be intimate with me again. I'd take that instead of remarriage right now in a heartbeat, but I knew Michael couldn't handle an unresponsive me, and I couldn't very well fake it. Sarah warned me that restoring normal intimacy could take 6 months to a year even after adjusting medications. Your brain needs time to heal, she explained. These changes don't happen overnight, but they do happen with patience and the right treatment. Then Michael got shot, and I almost fell completely apart again. I barely kept it together enough. Oh, how I wished it had been me who got shot and not Michael. I deserved it, not him, and I was completely helpless to help him as I so wanted to. At least Emma was maybe starting to believe me a little bit. It was now Derek who was becoming a major problem. He didn't believe me at all and kept trying to see me and be with me. Maybe he shot Michael on purpose. If he had, that would have been my fault as well. I felt sorry for what I had done to Derek and tried to let him down easy. I told him I was very mentally ill and was slowly recovering, and I was sorry I led him to believe I loved him, but the fact is I didn't, never did, and never would. I guess there is no easy way to get that message across to another person, especially one with whom just 2 months before I had been intimate in every way, both physically and mentally. He just couldn't grasp that. He just wouldn't believe me now. I guess he was addicted to the intimacy we had had, and even the false love feelings from the ecstasy he occasionally took with me just reinforced my lies and his own true feelings. It didn't even faze him when I told him the medicine I was on basically made me an intimate zombie. He said, "I just want to take care of you, baby." But I couldn't help but think he merely wanted to be with me until I died. I finally had to get a protective order against him to leave me and the kids alone, and he still wouldn't stop until he was in jail. Then my dad died so suddenly. He wasn't a perfect man or a perfect father, but he was still just dad to me, and in my current condition it was very difficult. I was back on Valium for a bit just to get through the funeral. Rob came back for it and handled everything that needed handling. Eleanor was a mess. Janet had her own problems now, as Todd had evidently found out about her extracurricular activities and was divorcing her. Janet was depressed herself. Not chemically like me, thank God. But evidently just hooking up with strangers wasn't nearly as much fun when not married to some boring older rich man who otherwise took care of her quite well. And Janet even blamed me for her own problems. Forget her. I was starting to look at my own family much more objectively and critically than I ever had before. Psychotherapy could be good for that. All of a sudden Janet was having to watch her own spending and even constrain it. She would get some okay alimony for a while, but her own inheritance was even less than Rob's, since Dad was so proud of her marriage and sure that she had married well and securely. I got about $3.2 million for me and my kids. Dad wanted to try and help me as much as he could. Maybe he even hoped it would entice Michael back into our marriage. In the end, Stanford understood the terrible mistakes that he, Eleanor, and Janet had made in dismissing Michael and how I really had gone crazy and never really stopped loving him. Now I just wanted to get back to what I had. But Stanford also never comprehended how little money actually meant to Michael. He was only ever concerned that I had enough to be happy and satisfied, and now my new wealth might only serve to keep him permanently away. I instructed my lawyer to drop the papers ending his alimony payments to me. At least I could do that much for him. Rob also told me about his last meeting with Michael and how Michael no longer hated me but was actually too scared to love me anymore. Well, that might be good. Maybe that was a tiny opening I could work with once Sarah finally released me to try. Maybe I was coming back off the Valium when I heard the final bit of devastating news. Michael was moving about 200 miles away to Austin, all the way down to the hill country. Would I ever see him in person again? Actually get to tell him what had happened and why? His kids needed him, and I was pretty sure he needed his kids. Did he need me even a little bit? Now let's check it out from Michael's side. I arrived in Austin on April 15th, the day after tax day. It was a sunny day with temperatures in the upper 70s. The bluebonnets were blooming along I-35 as I drove south from Dallas, and I had already passed a lot of live oak trees and rolling hills. This definitely wasn't Dallas anymore. It was about a 3.5-hour drive from Dallas, basically just me and my clothes in one car. That's all I brought with me. I would stay in a motel tonight and start looking for my furnished apartment tomorrow. A total clean start. I was looking forward to my new job, my new responsibilities, and a reunion with one old friend Benny Rodriguez, a Hispanic Texan from Austin who was my best buddy in Iraq and now an Austin police officer. There had been a fairly large Hispanic population around Austin for generations, working in construction, restaurants, and ranching, mixed with the German settlers who'd been in the hill country for over a century. There was a lot of water around Austin. Lake Travis was the main recreational lake, with about 65 miles of shoreline when full. At its deepest point it reached about 200 feet, though it averaged closer to 50 feet, with several coves and areas for recreation. But for actual tactical training we'd mostly use Lake Austin, which was closer to the city and more controlled. The Colorado River ran right through the heart of Austin, with several areas developed for recreational boats. It was much clearer water than what I was used to in Dallas, more like the hill country streams that fed into it. Austin was kind of a dividing line, to the east still in Texas where the plains stretched toward Houston, then to the west the Real Hill country began, leading toward San Antonio and eventually the desert. The Colorado River itself contributed to that, providing a natural barrier and different ecosystems on either side. My new SWAT team needed to be highly trained in potential water-based situations, everything from recreational boat domestic situations to commercial fishing operations on the lakes, and even potential large vessel situations requiring a tactical response. I could see just driving down I-35 and into the city the potential challenges of this new opportunity. I was really eager to meet Benny and get caught up personally, but also get clued in on the whole current SWAT setup. At the same time, I always had to guard against any perceived professional favoritism. Previous job evaluations and promotion status had to be maintained fairly for everyone in the squad. But unless Benny was also possessed by some evil spirit like had gotten into Derek, I couldn't imagine that kind of problem with him, fostering division and breaking team cohesion. He was a big, likable, friendly extrovert who personified, "Let's have fun," right up until someone crossed him. Then he turned on them and they backed down. He was one of those naturally strong guys. I was a high school fullback offered only a partial Division II football college scholarship to Texas State University, which I passed on. He was a starting linebacker for UT for 2 years before his partying got him in trouble, and then he joined the Army. I had 3 days before my official introduction and start date enough time to find my already online rented furnished apartment and settle in a bit. I finally hooked up with Benny at a little dive called the Broken Spoke Bar and Grill. Their chicken fried steak was really good. Benny raved about their breakfast tacos, but I wasn't so sure. Maybe that was an acquired taste. Benny had finally settled down and just gotten married himself to a nice Texas woman named Maria. She was absolutely gorgeous in the photos Benny showed me, slightly darker complexioned than his own light brown skin, with jet black hair and very dark brown eyes, a blend of Hispanic and Native American heritage, and speaking that melodic Texas Spanish. It was her voice that got me Mike, he said, using the more common nickname. She sings like an angel, but just talking as well. I was like in a trance and married before I knew it. When are your wife and the kids coming down? He hadn't heard. Not happening. She divorced me. I showed him my ring finger. Oh, what did you do, Mike? You got 4 little ones, right? I don't really know. Just me being me, I guess. All of a sudden she wasn't touching me and was involved with somebody else, and now she and my kids all pretty much hate me. You know, her folks were kind of wealthy stuck-ups and never did like me. I guess she finally figured they were right all along. Of course, I've now heard she had a kind of rough stretch with mental issues, but who knows? I can't communicate with any of those people except her brother Rob, and he's basically out of the day-to-day picture with his own life in Chicago. I hate being so far away from my kids, but maybe some time and space apart is what we all need now. I am just hoping we can really reconnect in a better way when I get them for a month or 6 weeks after school ends this summer. Well, you just need a Texas woman, or maybe not for you right now. That's always playing with fire, all that passion. But you definitely need to meet my sister Lucia. She just divorced her own worthless husband, good thing too, before I killed him myself. But she would be fun for you, just to be friends with for a bit. I thought sure and replied more heartily than I felt. I just couldn't quite imagine a female version of Benny. So Monday's the big day for you, huh? Well, I think it's time for some serious drinking the rest of tonight then. And that's pretty much what we did. It wasn't exactly a fight, but at some point some loud words were spoken. Eventually a couple of Austin PD uniforms who knew Benny quite well escorted us both out of that bar and took us back to my motel room in the back of their patrol car. We both crashed there. So Monday morning I already had a kind of reputation going in the squad room, Benny's friend who can't hold his liquor. Not exactly what I wanted for a perfect start, but it turned out okay after all. In late April, I received a letter from Kate, A short note saying basically this is my new cell phone number and that I should call her anytime to discuss the kids visiting me this summer, logistics, and timing. So I called her. Hello, Michael. She sounded different somehow. Maybe just better and not so crazy. Hi, Kate. I got your letter. Let's work this out as nicely as possible. Okay? Of course. I want to be as cooperative as possible, but I've made some plans. I was thinking, but hopefully it will be to your advantage as well. I've already rented a 3-bedroom condo in Galveston for 2 weeks starting June 10th. You might have heard I got some money when Dad died, and I bought a new BMW SUV. I will drive us all down there so you won't have to go far to pick up the kids for your month, or really however long you want to keep them this summer. In fact, I was thinking if you could and wanted to join us for a week on the beach, you could bunk in with Tyler, and it might be a good reacquaintance period for all of us. Please just think about it. You can let me know anytime what you decide. She almost sounded sane again. It was hard to argue with her like this. Well, thanks for the offer. I will think about it. Are the kids there? Can I talk to them a minute? Emma's at a friend's studying right now, but everyone else is here. Hold on. I heard her calling for Tyler and Madison to get Sophia. We had a pretty good conversation. They all seemed much more normal in talking with me now. Tyler especially was excited about visiting the ocean again. He had been twice before with Stanford and Eleanor and once with Kate. Everyone had even gone on a family vacation to South Padre while I had stayed home and worked. I didn't begrudge anyone that at the time. I needed to work and didn't want Kate's parents paying my way, but I didn't want the rest of my family to miss an opportunity for a nice week's getaway and to be with their grandparents who were paying for pretty much everything. Now I was just happy that a little bit of sanity seemed to be returning to my family life. Fingers crossed. I tried talking to my kids at least twice a week now and generally succeeded with everyone but Emma. She just wasn't available a lot, and when we did connect, we still really didn't. She remained very cool and remote with me. Well, she was 13 now and entering her teenage years, but the divorce happened at exactly the worst possible time for my little girl. All of a sudden, her father figure disappeared from her life. I did not have a good feeling about how this might affect her relationship with boys and men as she inevitably got older. I only prayed Kate's mental problems weren't genetic and possibly passed down to Emma as well, on top of the divorce. As much as I wanted to live with them all again, at least for a month or 6 weeks this and every other summer, just making that happen this first time was going to be tough. My little 2-bedroom apartment was going to be very crowded, but at least it had 2 baths. I would also have to arrange babysitting, as I could not just take a month off from work. What if I got called out one night for a critical situation? I wasn't going to leave them alone with just a 13-year-old girl. My work wasn't just a job. It was a service. A public service that was always important, but sometimes critically important to other innocent people caught up in unexpected threats of violence and death. I loved my children, but I wasn't really able to ever be the greatest dad for them, even when married. Kate necessarily carried that greater parenting load, and I appreciated her and loved her for how well she had done that. As far as I could tell, even in her deteriorated mental state, other than verbally trying to turn my children against me, which logically made some sense given her condition, she had remained a good mother to the kids. I couldn't be any kind of better father as a single dad either. I couldn't be there for them 24/7 like Kate always could as a stay-at-home married mom. Even now, as a single mom, she was managing well enough financially. There might always be times when others' critical needs for me and my team to risk our own lives would necessarily supersede my own children's needs for my attention and demonstrated love for them. Life wasn't fair, and no one had it all, at least not for very long apparently. I might have to make some hard choices myself soon, like maybe swallow my pride and my own fear of more pain Kate might inflict on me, for the sake of my kids. I couldn't help but mention these concerns to Benny one night while we were drinking a little and relaxing after work. We do what we have to and make it work, eh? But you definitely need to come to my family's little cookout this Saturday. It's at my sister's place this time, any time in the afternoon, but the sooner the better. You'll see. He gave me her address and directions since even Google Maps might not be accurate for her location out in the hill country west of Austin. I guess Benny had a pretty large family. I got there a little after 1, and already more than 100 people were there. Sausages, hamburgers, hot dogs, and brisket were being grilled. Large pots of chili and beans were also cooking. All kinds of side dishes were being set out, and washtubs full of sodas and beer were filled and iced. There were also 5-gallon containers of lemonade and sweet tea, that southern staple. Long tables were already set up, and kids were running around everywhere just being happy kids. A conjunto band was also setting up with actual pro-quality sound system, which looked like it was mixed for some singers maybe, and all the acoustic instruments, accordions, guitars, bass, and homemade percussion were being laid out with a portable dance floor being set down. I had a feeling some good times were about to roll. I wasn't the only non-family member there. I recognized several APD folks and 3 other members of my SWAT team, including Karen Riley, the only female member currently in tactical operations training. Benny spotted me and took me over to meet Lucia, his sister. She seemed to be directing a lot of the activity, evidently the hostess. "This is my old army buddy and new boss man now, Michael Hayes," Benny said. She smiled at me and said, "Hello, Michael. Hope you can handle the madness here today. Benny's told me quite a bit about you." She had a twinkle in her eye that matched her dimples. She was easily a head shorter than her brother, maybe only 5 feet 3 inches, and very petite. Nope, she never would have made it as a UT linebacker. They both had the same raven hair coloring and naturally darker, always tan skin, and both had very dark brown eyes. But Lucia was a hell of a lot prettier than Benny. Evidently, Benny wasn't his nickname here. I was kind of nervous all of a sudden and merely mumbled something like, "Thanks for having me over today." She merely laughed. "Just make sure you get enough to eat, and maybe we can talk a bit more later. Having a real good time is the most important thing." She was back to organizing people in a real nice way with her wonderful soft voice and accent. "So what do you think of my sister, Mike?" Benny asked. "She seems very nice," I replied. "Nice. Benny's okay here too, but about 50 other males might respond using that description." He started laughing. Then a stunningly beautiful and graceful woman walked up and hugged him from behind. I mean, NYC or LA model beautiful, very exotic and mysterious looking. I had seen her picture before, but in person she literally took my breath away. "Ah, mi amor," Benny said, kissing her. "This is my boss man, Michael Hayes." "Hello, Michael. I trust you to keep my Benny safe." "Yes, we keep each other safe," was all I could say in response. I couldn't lie or make promises I might not be able to keep, and that was hard to do in response to her voice. I surely understood why Benny married her. She gave me a little smile and then said, "Please dance with me when the music starts." "Okay?" Benny just said, "All Texas women just love to dance. And you better know how, Mike, if you're going to hang around here much at all." Actually, I thought I would be okay. Kate and I had taken ballroom classes for about a year before Emma was born. I had always liked music and even dancing in high school and then afterward. Happy enthusiasm and unself-consciousness are most important for a man on the dance floor for most women in all social dance situations. Women just want to be seen and show off themselves basically when dancing. It was a little more complicated than that in partner dances, but hearing the beat and a solid lead counted for a lot. I'd see what they were doing on the dance floor and try to fake the basic steps. Maybe if I drank a few beers first. It was a hell of a good party. The music and dancing really started around 3 after everybody had eaten quite a bit and had a few drinks. The music was really good, and Maria and her sister Francesca sang quite a bit, often with one or more of the band members joining in. Their harmonies were incredible and gave me chills. The dancing was non-stop late into the night. Well, the band had to take a few breaks, but the musicians just kept rotating in and out. I danced with Maria, Francesca, Lucia, and a few other women who weren't the least bit shy about grabbing me when they saw I could fake it well enough. It was basically a country two-step kind of dance, more sideways in place than moving around the dance floor. Benny danced quite a bit as well. Hell, almost everyone did. The funny thing to me was that for all the drinking and dancing going on, basically no one got out of line or started acting up. There were no jealous flare-ups or too much flirting of any kind, much less pushing any limits. With that many people there had to be a few complex relationships going on, innocent singles or maybe not. It made me think it might have been like a big family get-together where sudden and violent consequences might meet anyone breaking some patriarch's idea of a pleasant social gathering for one afternoon. Somehow politeness seemed to just be the rule here. Interesting. Maybe all those legends about Texas hospitality had something to do with it. Later on, with everybody pretty mellow, I talked with Lucia quite a bit. She was just really nice. I also met her 9-year-old son Joey and countless cousins, uncles, and aunts. "So you have 4 children?" she eventually asked. "Yes, they live back in Dallas." "That must be difficult for you." "Yes and no. The whole divorce thing was just so sudden and out of the blue for me. It seemed like my wife just suddenly hated me and spent 6 months really bad-mouthing me to my kids." "So you still loved your wife?" "Yes, I did. I've been told by her mother and brother that she had kind of a mental breakdown that caused her to do all these things. But what is the truth? At least we can now actually talk to one another somewhat civilly, and my kids seem more normal with me as well. They are all coming down here in June, and I have them full-time for at least a month." "So you have a house here now?" "No. I probably messed up and just rented a 2-bedroom apartment when everything was still in a state of chaos in my personal life." Let's talk again later before you leave," she said as someone asked her to dance again. I had to admit my own legs were hurting a bit by now, and I needed some more beer as self-medication. Around 1 a.m. things started winding down, and the band finally had to give it up. Me and about 30 other people were feeling no pain. Benny told me to just find a place in the house and stay the night. It was a big house with at least 4 bedrooms. All the women and kids got places upstairs, and the older boys and men found spots downstairs. Lots of air mattresses and old blankets were spread around. Many of the guys just slept outside, having brought their basic camping gear and sleeping bags just in case. The next morning was yet another big communal breakfast that started pretty early, as most headed to Mass that Sunday morning. I was a tad hungover, but strong coffee, scrambled eggs, and lots of bacon helped quite a bit. These folks knew how to cook for a lot of people at once and could open a restaurant anytime they wanted to. Pretty soon just about everyone had cleared out except for Benny, his wife Lucia, her cousin Carla, and me. Lucia and I finally got to talk a little more. "I've been thinking," she started. "How would you like to rent half my house when your kids are down here? I have 5 large bedrooms with bunk beds set up in 3 of them, and I just live here now with my son and Carla and her 8-year-old daughter Kay. We could make room for you and your brood, be available for babysitting, and we could always use a few extra bucks." She grinned. I was floored by such generosity. I knew what she was offering me, and I almost couldn't say no. "Oh wow," I said. "It's almost like a prayer answered, but I just can't say yes right away. At a minimum, let's just try it, and if there are any big personality conflicts right away, I can back out with no hard feelings." "Okay." "Sure, Michael, that's fine. And don't be a stranger around here before then either. Okay? I have a feeling I won't be." Just like that, I had a friend in Austin who did not wear a uniform of any kind. My job was going pretty well and helped me mentally a lot. Living alone now was just lonely. I missed my wife and my kids always being around. The fact is, I always liked that before without ever thinking about it. Of course, it was never perfect, but the last 6 months of my marriage highlighted just how good the little imperfections had been before. Now living alone was just something to put up with when I wasn't working or occasionally getting together with Lucia and usually Carla and her date or Benny and Maria or both couples. I always had a good time doing something with them. Occasionally we'd catch a movie, especially something like SWAT, and then dissect it and laugh about it afterwards. Many times it was dancing to live music, but honestly, those bands were seldom nearly as good as the amateurs at the family monthly get-togethers. It always seemed everywhere we went, The musicians knew Maria, and everyone went nuts until she got up and sang something with them. Occasionally some drunk just wouldn't leave Maria alone until Benny and I both stood up. I'd usually just pull my badge out and that would be that. If they and their friends started swinging anyway, we would put them down, handcuff them, and call APD to arrest them for drunk and disorderly. This happened very infrequently since Maria was so popular. I'm thinking we literally saved these kinds of troublemakers' lives by not just letting the rest of the crowd handle them. The term buzzard bait comes to mind. None of our girls would ever dance with anyone else at these public bars unless it happened to be a cousin or a well-known friend, which, come to think of it, we almost always ran into anyway. It turned out I was the only one that really needed to get up to speed on water-based tactical situations. Everyone else except Karen had already attended a seminar or two. Tactical Waterborne Operations was a program developed and taught by an ex-SEAL, Chief Steve Bronson, and was very effective at covering the basics. The basic was merely staying alive around water. Merely stumbling and falling off a dock while approaching a suspicious boat might be more than embarrassing. It might mean drowning, encumbered by 40 pounds of equipment. So the very first skill that needed to be learned was not panicking in that situation, but effective self-rescue, shedding the proper equipment and deploying the swimmer's vest for safe and quiet flotation. Efficient survival swimming strokes also had to be mastered, along with high-speed boat insertion techniques and critical accurate aimed rifle ability from floating small boats, including our qualified snipers, one primary and one pretty good backup sniper team in my unit. I also already had one fully qualified underwater demolition guy, with two others in the APD Patrol Boating Unit 1X Navy and one with just a commercial background that I could call on if and when needed. The other major technique we needed to practice was boarding moving boats and especially larger vessels. Again, the Navy had worked all this out in VBSS Doctrine Visit, Board, Search, and Seize, and often used helicopter fast-rope boarding techniques. We could possibly do that in an emergency, though that would never be our primary technique. Instead, we worked on fast small boat approaches and using flexible grapple ladders for boarding moving ships. Maybe we should all watch Black Sails. The Coast Guard let us practice on one of their cutters occasionally. One of my major job responsibilities was maintaining good contacts and working relationships with the Coast Guard, FBI, and their HRT, and even the USN and possibly SEAL teams if a large commercial foreign flag freighter seemed hijacked or otherwise just out of control on Lake Travis or the Colorado River. The problem with calling in such high-quality cavalry was the time-critical nature of bad situations. We might just have to do it all on our own at some point, and we could never be prepared enough. Unfortunately, all my officers were basically just cops as well. Couldn't just be full-time SWAT people either, waiting to be called on like firemen or even in perpetual training. City police budgets just were always too tight. So another part of my job was scheduling and concern for spatial dispositions when my officers were on loan to narcotics or just out in cars patrolling with all their personal gear already in the trunks. I tried to keep a couple of rotating guys in the squad room with me, working on paperwork and forming a core of quickest response if and when needed. Otherwise, I strove for under 1 hour full team availability. Everyone geared up and on site anywhere in our metropolitan area, land or water, within an hour after a request was made for us. I also still spent quite a bit of time on physical training. I could now dance pretty comfortably but was still a ways from being able to run a 7:24 mile or a 7-minute mile, my own goals for minimum acceptable warrior capability for myself and all my team members. I used Karen shamelessly to motivate all of us. She lacked some of the upper body strength of the guys, but she had played soccer and basketball competitively all through school and could still easily meet those running guidelines. I told her to push us during our weekly joint training sessions. Eventually everyone got there, including me, or at least close enough and dedicated enough to keep at it. Running just isn't easy or fun for some people, but we all have to take the bad with the good to do what we want. So my life was steadying down pretty well, and I felt okay about taking a 1-week vacation after only 3 months of my new job to meet my ex-wife and kids in Galveston. I was more nervous driving over than I could ever remember when responding to a hostage situation. Just be cool and friendly to everyone, I kept telling myself. As soon as I got there, Madison and Sophia were all over me, hugging and laughing. Even Tyler wanted a hug and was talking fast. Only Emma and Kate were a little more reserved, though smiling. Maybe it's going to be okay. We just stayed busy. That seemed to be the key. We spent hours at the beach with Sophia and Madison enjoying playing in the sand while Tyler and Emma spent more time in the surf. Emma was starting to attract some young teen boys' attention and was soon being taught how to surf by a couple of them with their own boards. Did I watch them like a hawk? Hell yes. One of my biggest challenges was that Kate just looked great in her swimsuit. The way she looked and acted, all pleasant and supportive of me with the kids, along with the way some of the other older teen girls and young women looked in their more revealing swimsuits. Well, I had some restless nights bunking in with Tyler. Sophia, Madison, and Emma shared another bedroom while Kate slept in the master with its king bed. Though most nights Sophia joined her there sometime before dawn. Let's just say I took a few longer than normal showers. Kate and I didn't have much alone time until late Wednesday night. The kids were all pretty tired out by then from another long day playing in the sun and had retired to their rooms by 10 p.m. Even Emma. Kate and I were just relaxing with a little wine and watching something like Must Love Dogs on the TV when we had the talk, or at least the beginning of it. I received notice from the court that my alimony obligations to you have ended, so thanks, I guess. Yes, I don't need the money now, and it was never fair to you anyway. I should never have divorced you. You probably should have divorced me though, the way I acted. There were a few moments of silence. Rob told me you were sick mentally, but I still can't understand all the things you did, the inconsistencies and how you acted. Basically, it just seemed you attacked me while still acting somewhat rational to everyone else. At least everyone seemed to believe you in everything that was important. I'm still sick, Michael. I'm on an antidepressant that is working pretty well for me right now, but it comes with some side effects. I'm also still seeing a psychiatrist working through some of my other mental issues. Basically, I've been pretty messed up for a long time, since puberty for sure. So you didn't fall in love with me and marry me while I was mentally balanced. Oh, I loved you, and I still do. Marrying you was the smartest thing I ever did. But therapy has opened a few doors into some clearer memories. What did you think of me when we first met, very first time? She asked me. I experienced a significant change in my life when I was 15. With another boy I hardly cared about at all. Just someone I considered safe and even controllable. In fact, that was the only time I was intimate with him, and I hardly remember him. It was just no big deal to me. You were always the big deal. Whenever I saw you walking in the school hallway or at lunchtime, the intensity of both longing and fear never lessened. I cried when you graduated and then went away to join the army, thinking at least high school might be better for me. Instead, I just became wilder, experimenting with alcohol and pills and a few more encounters. Outwardly, I seemed happy enough, but I knew I wasn't. Then college was devastating and I went overboard. I think I was just self-medicating, and it only made things worse. Getting away from all that was a good thing for me, and the counseling I received helped, but I stopped that too soon. Luckily, my brain chemistry wasn't totally disrupted yet, but it was borderline. Then Rob told me you were back in town and that he was meeting you, and I finally decided my attraction to you was stronger than my fear of rejection. I kept repeating "grow up, girl" to myself like a mantra. When I saw you again after 4 years, you were more handsome to me than I even remembered. I just kept hoping and praying you'd call me and want to see me alone, and not just as Rob's sister. And you did. I had 13 wonderful years with you, Michael, and then I just blew it. I can't even blame it all on depression and my bipolar brain chemistry. The fear of you leaving me and the fear of rejection returned, and I caved into it. I made some terrible decisions, and now I have to live with them, as you do, we all do. And it wasn't your fault, not one little bit. I never deserved you. We often do harm to the things or people we love. We often bring to life the things we most fear. That's what I did. I just wasn't brave enough. I've never been brave like this. It was quite a bit to think about. I guess both some more wine. That was Kate's second glass, and I knew that would be her limit. She moderated herself very closely and strongly now. Jesus, Kate, I've never thought of you as a coward. You've had 4 kids and raised them primarily by yourself. That all takes courage day by day. And you do have such a strong personality in so many ways. Yes, sometimes I can fake it pretty darn well. I can act confident and assertive once I've made my mind up about something. The decisions I arrive at are based on my innermost fears and insecurities. That's the problem. Just wrong decisions, like seducing poor Derek to get ecstasy from him and then using him for basically empty encounters just for my own self-determined needs. Poor Derek, I drove him crazy too. Forget Derek. You shouldn't feel sorry for that one bit. Even if Derek had the same kind of brain chemistry imbalances as you, he still never should have touched you. Even if you presented yourself to him, there is no excuse for his behavior, and you are not to feel at fault. Well, I just hope he gets himself straightened out and leaves you and me alone. That's all I feel for him. Just like those boys in high school and college, I know I can't make you understand all this in so many ways because so much of it is crazy. How can you trust what I'm just telling you? I wish you could talk to my psychiatrist, Sarah. She wanted to meet you whenever we reached this point of discussing it, but you were down here. Are you staying here now? Yes, for the foreseeable future. It's been a really good change for me, a good fit. I just had to get out of Dallas for both personal and professional reasons. I am sorry I will be so far away from my kids, but I understand. I messed up so much in so many ways. I just wish. And she fell silent. What? You wish? That I could turn back time and undo so much. I wish I had asked you for help rather than merely feeling you would just leave me if you really knew how crazy I was, how unhappy I was. I wish I had trusted your basic goodness and your love for me. I saw there were tears in her eyes, but she wasn't losing it. If this was an act, then nothing could ever be real again. Should I let her own fear infect me and influence my own decision-making emotion over calculated risk and reason? Well, what's done is done and can't be undone, but maybe we can just live in the now, day by day, one day at a time, and look more forward than backward, okay? And we both still need to put our kids first as much as possible, right? Yes, and I'll do my best now to never try to use your children against you as pawns in my own stupid, crazy mind games. I think I've got them mostly back on track with reality, except Emma maybe, but she's got the whole teenage thing starting now as well. I'm a little scared about that, as that is when I went off the tracks in my own life. But the past few days with us all being together have been just so wonderful for me. I'm sure you can't really imagine. I'm having a really good, relaxing time as well, and don't worry too much about Emma. She's not you, and most importantly, you aren't your mother either. I am not your father. I know I haven't been around as much as I wanted to be, even before our divorce, but I hope Emma still knows just how much I really love her. I always have and always will. I hope I can spend a little more focused time with Emma in the next 6 weeks. There were a few more minutes of thoughtful silence, and then Kate sighed. Could I just sit next to you for a bit while watching TV? Would you put your arm around me like you used to? She said. Looking down, I stiffened at this unconsciously, then forced myself to relax and just said, okay. She sat down close to me, laid her head on my shoulder, and I put my arm around her. She felt both like a stranger to me now, but also still just my wife. She smelled the same and felt the same as she had for all the 13 years we had been together. Our lives had been intertwined. She had been and still was mine, body and soul, as I had been hers. But I had never possessed her mind, and she had never possessed mine. In reality, all of us individuals, our thoughts and mental workings are ours alone, and the only possible entity that might know otherwise would be God. I still wanted her intimately, that I was sure of and had no control over. Why was it all so complicated? After a while, she buried her face in my chest, and I could feel her crying silently. All I could do was stroke her hair and hold her. Eventually, she quieted down and started breathing deeply and regularly. She fell asleep. My own mental turmoil lessened, and I tried a little Zen fade out myself, just being in the now. Before I knew it, I fell asleep too and slept dreamlessly and as restfully as I had in more than a year. The few times of empty encounters I had engaged in over the past year of loneliness, I had never slept with any of those women. It was always lonely encounters, not even hardly worth it. We woke up together the next morning, still on the couch. I was now lying on my back, and Kate was half on me, laying across my chest with one leg thrown over mine. We were both dressed in comfortably loose sweats when Sophia shook Kate awake, ready for breakfast and a new exciting day at the beach. Kate, after waking up, smiled warmly at me. If Sophia and all the kids weren't there, I probably would have kissed her right then and there. I kissed Kate on the forehead and ruffled Sophia's sweet hair as we untangled ourselves, and I headed to the shower. Yeah, another longer than normal shower as I tried to work through my feelings and figure out the right thing to do for all of us. One day at a time from this point forward. Things were even better, more relaxed, with even more smiles and laughter. The kids somehow figured out that their mom and dad had spent the night together again, even if it was just on the couch, and that was a good thing, a natural thing. That night Kate and I found ourselves alone in the living room again as the kids almost conspiratorially retired early to bed. We were watching TV, and I was drinking a beer while Kate sipped on a Diet Coke. She sat down on the couch next to me, and I could almost read her mind. Her natural assertiveness was returning, but she still hesitated to sit right against me. I merely lifted my arm and rested it on the back of the couch, and then she scooted right against me. I glanced down at her. She was smiling like the cat that ate the canary, and I almost burst out laughing. I could almost hear the wheels turning in her mind. She wanted to say something, but I decided to wait. Finally she said, "I'm getting sleepy, honey. Could we finish watching this in the bedroom? Not that I mind sleeping on the couch with you, but there is a king-sized bed in there, and you are welcome to share it with me. I saw you rubbing your neck a lot this morning." She was right. I had woken up with a crick in my neck from sleeping on the couch and not moving much last night with Kate snuggled all over me that I still hesitated in answering. "Just sleep, Michael, if that's all you want," she continued. "The fact is, the meds I'm taking now kind of affect my physical desires. I haven't had to, well, let's just say I remember and miss all the intimate times we used to have together," she trailed off, blushing. "But the doctor seems pretty confident that with some trial and error, dosage adjustments, and further counseling, my natural desires will return. It's still more of an art than a science, and intimacy is a lot more complicated for women than men in so many ways. As Sarah puts it, there won't ever be just one pill like Viagra for women. Love itself is still the greatest and longest-lasting aphrodisiac for all of us. But I did feel those goosebumps and chills, and that total relaxed feeling while lying in your arms last night. I feel bad for you because I know intimacy is so important to you, as it is for all men from my discussions with Sarah. In so many ways, here I am failing you again as just a woman. Just worry about yourself for now. Your own mental health is so important for the kids and for me too. Okay? Let's go to your room, and you can get some more rest. I'll be fine." Would I be fine? I didn't know. I still couldn't just trust her, and I also knew that lying next to her in bed would be a kind of torture, maybe sweet, maybe not. Now that I was almost fully recovered from the shooting injuries and pretty much back in shape, my own desires were more than normal. We retired to the bedroom, and despite that king-sized bed, she was glued to my side as we watched another innocuous movie. Soon she was breathing deeply and regularly, and I looked at her face in repose. She was beautiful and seemed more at rest than I had seen her in literally years. Her body was warm and soft against mine. I woke up the next morning with my ex-wife still pressed against me. I looked at her and she was smiling. I took my shower, and Kate actually joined me in the shower, humming away and helping me wash. Finally she looked at me and said, "Can I at least get a kiss from you?" What could I do? I kissed her. We rinsed off and got out of the shower. That day at the beach, she wore a new bikini that was cut a little differently. It looked like one or both pieces were just about to fall out. I observed her carefully as all kinds of men and even teen boys apparently couldn't keep their eyes off her. On the other hand, she literally only had eyes for me. I wanted to spend more time with my kids, especially Emma, but I sure didn't want to leave Kate alone either with all the other wolves around. Plus I had to keep an eye on Emma, as now she had 4 guys teaching her how to surf. It was one of the best days of my life, actually. It wasn't just Kate who was attentive and even willingly cooperative. It was all the kids, including Emma. When I said it was time to head back to the condo to get cleaned up and ready for supper, there were no arguments, not even from Emma. She seemed to be doing really well handling her 4 new boyfriends and did not delay at all when her mom called her. I was proud of my oldest daughter's beauty and her poise and self-possession. I also got the impression they were proud of me as their father and being in a whole family again. Could I now deprive them of their feelings by being too self-proud or too scared of possible further pain to myself? This week was rapidly coming to a close, and I didn't want it to. What was next? Okay, go slow, one day at a time. After a nice quick dinner at one of the favorite seafood places we had found that also served great burgers, fries, and even chicken fingers, we all settled back in at the condo and found a nice family movie we could all enjoy together for a change. Right around 10 p.m., all the kids were practically asleep and headed off to their bedrooms. Sophia was asleep, and I carried her to her bed and tucked her in. Kate also kissed her good night. Without really discussing it, we both headed to our bedroom. Kate hit the bathroom first. When she came out, she was wearing a nightgown I had never seen before. It was silk or rayon and came down to mid-thigh, but it was also cut elegantly. It did not appear that she was wearing anything underneath it either. I just looked at her kind of questioningly, and she blushed. I wore that bikini to see how you would react to it. I didn't expect every other man to be so interested, but you watching me kept me. Well, I have felt like this in a long time. Maybe we can just be close a little bit tonight and see how it goes. I'll do anything you want. You did look very beautiful in that bikini today, and I certainly noticed the other men looking at you. I could hardly look away myself. And this is quite a nightgown you're wearing. You're still a very beautiful woman, Kate. She climbed on the large bed and moved toward me. Let's not rush into it, please. Give me some time, I said. I did not want to get hurt again, so I just lay there and asked her to lay down beside me. Before I knew it, I was asleep with her near me. It was Saturday, and we were all going to another Texas family gathering. I had already explained my tentative plans to rent half a house for me and the kids while they were down here. That had turned out to be an interesting conversation. Kate had started by asking, "How is it going to work for you with all the kids in your apartment? It's just 2 bedrooms, right? And who is going to look after them while you work?" I was a little worried about that, but a friend of mine, the sister of one of my old army buddies who now works for me, has offered to let me rent half her house and even babysit if and when I need it. I could read her mind and was waiting for her to make some crack about an old army buddy like Derek, but she had changed, matured, or just smartened up enough not to say that out loud. Instead she said, "How well do you know her?" I answered truthfully, "Pretty well. We've sort of been going out a little, just going out dancing and with mutual friends, that kind of thing. Look, she's part of a big family and a large community, and they are all really nice people. They have a monthly get-together with food, music, and dancing, and one is coming up this Saturday. If you'd like to meet her and them." This was a tricky thing for Kate, I imagined. I wasn't going to force her to go. I'd like to take the kids, but even that might be a bit risky. A smaller, more intimate initial meeting with Lucia and Carla and their kids might be the wiser thing. But Kate swallowed a couple of times and said, "Okay, I think I'd like that. Do you have to go back to work this Monday?" I merely nodded. "Well, that's too bad. I have reserved this condo for another week just in case, but I can cancel and only need to pay for 2 days. I was actually thinking I'd just stay down here in Austin all summer anyway. I'll rent a suite at one of those extended stay hotels." Wow, this was all kind of news to me. I had no idea this had been her plan all along, or had it. We had actually had this conversation Friday at the beach before her attempted seduction of me last night. And now here we all were in her BMW SUV driving the 3 hours back to Austin for another all-day party. We got there a little after noon, and the setting up was in full swing. Lucia was in charge again, but she saw us as we all walked up from the car. She gave me one of her patented smiles, kissed me on the cheek, and looked expectantly at my family. I glanced back and saw that both Emma and Kate were far from pleased looking, but I merely said, "Everyone, this is Lucia, and this is the house I have rented space in for us all while you're here with me. Lucia, this is my ex Kate and my eldest daughter Emma, Tyler, Madison, and Sophia." Lucia smiled graciously at everyone and merely said, "Welcome. Please have a good time here today. My son Joey is around here somewhere, Michael. I'll get him out here soon. Kate, would you like to help us with the setup a bit? I'll introduce you to my cousin Carla and all the other women as they start showing up." Right about then Benny and Maria walked up, and I introduced everyone again. Tyler and even Emma seemed a bit overwhelmed by Maria's beauty and her voice. Maria started walking to the kitchen area with Lucia and Kate, and Emma surprised me a bit by going with them. I saw all the girls laughing at something before they entered the house, and Emma looked back at me with a big grin on her face. I got the idea I was probably the cause of all the amusement, and it didn't bother me a bit. Then I grabbed a beer, but it was mostly just lemonade for me today. About then Joey came running up and said, "Hi Michael, Mom sent me to make friends with your kids." Pretty soon he and Tyler headed off to do the important things boys do. I watched them walk off and Benny said, "Don't worry Mike, we'll all watch the kids here. Okay?" Then Carla's daughter Kay walked up to meet Madison and Sophia, and pretty soon they wandered off as well to meet more of Kay's cousins. In about an hour, we all got together again and ate the lunch meal. Kate looked really good and comfortable, and everyone seemed to be having a pretty good time. Lucia actually sat next to Kate rather than me. It was like the women were on one side of the long picnic table and us guys were on the other, but Sophia insisted on sitting next to me. Music started around 3 p.m., and some of the kids actually started dancing. Then slowly the dance floor became more grown-up occupied. About 5 we all got together again for a sit-down dinner, which was even shorter for the kids, who were having so much fun that they could hardly sit long enough to eat. Emma met some of the young teen cousins and was just hanging with them. One of the girls taught her the basic dance steps, and she actually danced with a couple of teen boys as well. Maria grabbed me for a dance after she and Benny had sung a set, and when we returned to our table, I noticed Kate looking at me kind of wistfully. I walked up to her, put my hand out and said, "Come on, honey, we can do this. Just follow me." She actually smiled shyly and got up. She was struggling just a tad. It had been a long time since we had done any partner dancing, and who knew how her meds were affecting her. But I had one trick I remembered from my heavier dancing days. I pulled her into a close body position and told her to follow my body, and that's exactly what she did. Good followers can do that, and it takes the woman right out of all the overthinking part of dancing. Don't worry about the beat or the steps. Just follow your partner's body. And that is exactly what she did. It was great. Then we could separate a little and I could twirl her a bit as well. Soon she was dancing with Benny and then some of the other guys as well. I danced with Lucia, Carla, and even Emma once. She seemed to like that, and I was again just so proud of her poise and grace. The plan was to head back after the dinner meal, but I didn't think anyone wanted to leave so early. However, we did have about an hour's drive back to Austin, and I started trying to get everyone together around 7 o'clock. We finally loaded up the SUV about 8:30, and in about 15 minutes 3 of the kids were out. Emma was kind of smiling and humming to herself, and Kate looked relaxed and pretty happy. In bed that night, Kate said, "Everyone was just so nice there today. Yeah, I think they're all just really nice people. Lucia and I talked quite a bit today. I think she really likes you. Well, I like her too quite a bit, but it's just a friend, right? Right now," Kate kind of whispered. Then Lucia said that I would be welcome to stay there with my family too, as long as you and the kids are there. How would you feel about that? To be honest, it scared me a little, just like Kate herself scared me. Well, one thing I thought to myself, life with Kate wasn't ever going to be boring again. I'm not sure it would be okay with me. I guess, how do you feel about it? I'm not really sure either. Now let me think about it for the next couple of days while I chill on the beach, and I'll let you know what I decide. Okay. Sure, honey. I need to get the kids all settled in tomorrow, and we'll just play it by ear. Everything is just up in the air right now. One day at a time. Kate seemed down a little after our talk, and we just cuddled at that point. Everything that had happened today must have been stressful for her. They were strangers to her. They were all nice people, but still strangers to her, while several were very good friends of mine. They must have given her insight into my other life that I was developing separate from her and my kids. Now let's check from Kate's side. Michael didn't make love to me last night, and I was discouraged. Lucia was definitely a concern. It wasn't just that she was beautiful. It was that she was just so damn nice and sane. It was the niceness and the saneness I just felt like I couldn't compete with. I wanted Michael back, but I also loved him enough to just want him happy and my kids happy. I knew I had to come in last in that whole equation if that was what it took. I really wanted to talk with Sarah, Dr. Mitchell, about the whole situation before I made the decision to move in at Lucia's. This was the main reason I put it off, especially after Michael made no move to love me last night. Everyone was a little subdued the next morning at breakfast, with the kids realizing I was not joining them that day in their move-in. At the same time, Tyler could hardly stop talking about his new friend Joey, and Madison really liked Kay, and so did Sophia. This was also a scary thing for me. I almost decided to go with them right then anyway, but I tried to handle my fear rationally and not let it panic me. I knew how terribly that could turn out. Sarah and I were definitely focusing on impulse control and delayed gratification, so I held it all together and helped the kids pack everything up and load Michael's car. Then I hugged them all and gave Michael the best kiss I could. He told me he would call me tonight and check in with me, and then they were gone. I went into the condo and cried a little bit. I was feeling down, but it felt like a pretty normal down and not any kind of chemical crazy. The day was sunny and nice, and I decided I would just hit the beach and chill out a little. There weren't many people there today, and I knew even fewer would be out tomorrow and Tuesday. Sunday was an exit travel day for many visitors. I spent a quiet day at the beach, reading and thinking. I called Sarah in the evening and we had a good conversation about everything that had happened. She was encouraged by my progress and my ability to handle the complex emotions of the week without falling back into destructive patterns. "You're doing really well, Kate," she said. "The fact that you can feel sad without spiraling, that you can be uncertain without panicking, that you can see Michael with another woman and feel jealous without becoming destructive. These are all signs of real healing." "But what if he chooses her?" I asked. "Then you will handle that too, one day at a time. Your worth isn't determined by whether Michael takes you back. Your healing isn't dependent on your marriage being restored. You're getting better because you're doing the work, not because you're trying to win him back." "I know you're right," I said. "It's just hard." "Of course it is. But you're stronger than you know. And whatever happens, your children need a healthy mother more than they need their parents back together." The next morning, I made a decision. I packed up the condo, checked out, and drove to Austin. Not to chase after Michael or to intrude on his new life, but to be near my children and to start building my own new life too. I found a nice furnished apartment about 20 minutes from Lucia's house in the hill country and called Michael to let him know where I was. "You did what?" he said when I told him. "I rented an apartment here in Austin. I want to be near the kids this summer, and I want to start fresh somewhere new too. I'm not going to interfere with your life or put any pressure on you. I just want to be a good mom and figure out who I am outside of our marriage." There was a long pause. "Okay," he finally said. "That's actually pretty mature of you. I'm trying to be. Sarah says I need to build my own life, not just try to get my old one back. Smart doctor. Yeah, she is. So, can I take the kids for dinner tomorrow night? Give you a break and let Lucia have her house back for an evening? Sure. That sounds good. And so began a new chapter. I had my children for dinner twice a week and every other weekend. Michael had them the rest of the time at Lucia's, and it seemed to be working well for everyone. The kids were gradually adjusting to this new normal, though it took Tyler and Madison several weeks to really settle in. Emma slowly started warming up to me again as she saw I wasn't trying to manipulate or control the situation. Tyler, Madison, and Sophia adjusted to having both parents nearby and accessible, though there were still rough days when they clearly missed having us all together. I started seeing a local therapist that Sarah recommended and continued taking my medication. I also started volunteering at a local literacy program and began taking community college courses toward becoming a peer support specialist, something I'd always been interested in but never pursued. The training involved 40 hours of classroom instruction plus supervised practice, and it would allow me to help other women going through similar struggles. For the first time in years, I was building a life based on what I wanted to do, not on what I thought would make someone else happy or what would avoid my fears. Michael and I were polite and cordial when we saw each other. Sometimes I caught him looking at me with something that might have been longing, but I didn't push. I was learning to be patient, to let things unfold naturally. There were still tense moments, like when Emma had a meltdown about the divorce, or when Sophia cried because she wanted the whole family together. But we handled them as a team, even if we went home to separate places afterward. One evening in late July, as I was dropping the kids off after dinner, Lucia invited me in for coffee. "I want to talk to you," she said, not unkindly. We sat on her spacious porch while the kids played in the backyard. Michael was at work, pulling a late shift. "I can see that he still loves you," Lucia said simply that I felt my heart jump, but I tried to stay calm. "I love him too. I always have. But love isn't always enough, is it? Not by itself." "No," I agreed. "I'm learning that. I'm learning a lot of things. He's scared of you. Scared of getting hurt again. I know. I don't blame him. And I—" Lucia paused, choosing her words carefully. "Care about him. He's a good man and he's been so hurt. Part of me wants to protect him from more pain. I understand. But the other part of me can see that you're not the same woman who hurt him. You're doing the work. You're getting healthy. And those kids need both their parents." I felt tears welling up. I don't know how to prove to him that I've changed. I don't know how to earn back his trust. "You can't," Lucia said. "That's something he has to choose to give. All you can do is keep being the person you're becoming and let time do the rest." "What about you and Michael?" Lucia smiled sadly. "We're friends. Good friends. And maybe in another time or place we could have been more. But his heart is still with you, even if his head is telling him to move on. I won't be the rebound woman, and I won't help him avoid dealing with his real feelings. You're a good person, Lucia. So are you, Kate. Maybe you always were, just buried under a lot of pain and fear. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep getting healthy. And let God or fate or whatever you believe in handle the rest." As the summer progressed, I watched Michael slowly relax. He smiled more, laughed with the kids more easily. He seemed less haunted by our past and more present in his new life. There were still difficult moments for all of us, nights when Emma would call me crying about her parents' divorce, or when Michael would be extra stiff and formal during our exchanges, clearly struggling with his own conflicted feelings. And I continued to heal. The medication was working well, and therapy was helping me understand not just what had gone wrong, but how to build a healthier future. I made a few friends in Austin, people who knew nothing about my past and accepted me as I was now. My peer support training was challenging but rewarding. Helping others helped me understand my own journey better. In August, as the summer was winding down and it was time to decide what would happen when school started, Michael asked if we could talk privately. We met at a quiet coffee shop near my apartment. He looked nervous, and so was I. The kids want to stay here in Austin for the school year, he said. Both with you and with me. They don't want to choose. What do you think? I think they've been through enough upheaval. I think they need stability. And I think, he paused, running his hands through his hair. I think maybe we all need to figure out how to be a family again, even if it's different than before. What are you saying? I'm saying maybe we try, slowly, carefully, with lots of therapy and probably some professional help for the kids too. I'm saying maybe Lucia was right that running away from our problems isn't the answer for any of us. I felt hope blooming in my chest, but I tried to keep it in check. I want that more than anything, but only if you really want it too, not just because you think it's what the kids need. I do want it, he said quietly. I'm terrified of it, but I want it. I want my family back. I want you back. But things have to be different this time. They will be. I will be. We both will be. And so we began again, slowly and carefully, building something new on the foundation of what we had learned from what we had lost. It wasn't easy and it wasn't quick, but it was real. We started with family counseling sessions twice a week, individual sessions with our own therapists, and carefully structured time together. 6 months later, we renewed our vows in Lucia's large backyard, surrounded by our children and the Texas family that had helped us find our way back to each other. Emma was my maid of honor, having turned 14 and matured considerably through our family's journey. Tyler was Michael's best man, and Madison and Sophia were flower girls. It was a small ceremony, simple and heartfelt. There were no grand gestures or dramatic declarations, just two people who had learned the hard way that love requires more than feelings. It requires commitment, work, and the courage to keep choosing each other every day. As we danced our first dance as husband and wife again, to a song Maria sang just for us, I thought about all the twists and turns that had brought us to this moment. The pain, the mistakes, the long journey back to each other. No regrets, Michael whispered in my ear. I looked around at our children laughing with their friends, at Lucia smiling approvingly from the sidelines, at Benny trying to organize a conga line, at all the people who had helped us heal and grow. Only that it took us so long to get here. I whispered back. Well, he said, spinning me around as the music swelled. We're here now. That's what matters. And it was. We were here now, together, whole, and ready for whatever came next. Not because our love was perfect, but because we had learned to make it real. Thank you for your viewing. See you next time. If you enjoyed this, subscribe to JK Tells a Story for more tales.